You go to a festival for the music, but some people go just to speak to the manager. We tracked down 55 of the most insane, brain-melting complaints ever filed against organizers. We are talking about folks demanding refunds for rain, suing over loud guitars at metal shows, and even calling the police because the person standing in front of them was too tall. The level of entitlement you're about to hear is absolutely terrifying. Let's see if you can make it through this list without screaming. 1. You buy tickets to a heavy metal festival. You expect aggressive guitars and screaming vocals, right? Apparently, not everyone got the memo. One attendee actually lodged a formal complaint stating that the bands were playing way too loud and it was hurting their ears. They genuinely suggested the organizers turn the volume down to a conversational level so people could chat during the guitar solos. Imagine going to see Metallica and asking them to keep it down because you are trying to discuss your mortgage rates. That is a special kind of entitlement. 2. Festival food courts are a chaotic mix of smells, but that wasn't good enough for one unhappy camper. A vegan attendee lodged a formal grievance simply because the smoke from a nearby steakhouse vendor was wafting over to the plant-based food truck. They claimed the mere scent of grilling meat was an assault on their senses and demanded the organizers segregate the vendors by smell radius next time. Unless they plan on installing giant glass domes over every grill, I am pretty sure the aroma of bacon is going to go wherever it wants. 3. Standing behind a giant at a show is annoying. We have all been there. But one woman took it to the next level by filing a complaint against a guy who was just standing there. She claimed his height was discriminatory against her shorter stature and demanded security make him kneel or leave. She wasn't asking him to take off a tall hat. She wanted him to physically shrink. Have you ever been so mad at genetics that you tried to get a bouncer to enforce a height limit? That is a bold strategy. 4. Losing your phone is a nightmare, but one fan took their panic to a delusional level. After dropping their device in the middle of a chaotic mosh pit, they screamed at security to cut the music immediately. They actually demanded the band turn on the main house lights and pause the entire concert so 40,000 people could stop dancing and look for their specific iPhone on the sticky floor. They genuinely believe the momentum of a massive rock show should grind to a halt just because they have clumsy hands. 5. We all know the portable toilet situation at festivals is essentially a survival horror game. But one luxury-minded attendee was absolutely appalled that the general admission tickets did not include access to flushing porcelain toilets with attendants. They wrote a long email describing the trauma of using a plastic box and smelling chemicals. While I sympathize with the desire for hygiene, what exactly did they expect for $50 in a cornfield? A bidet and a mint on the toilet paper. Welcome to the rough life of festival camping. 6. Camping at a multi-day music festival is a marathon of sleeplessness and cheap beer. Yet one camper filed a noise complaint with the local police because the tent next to them was playing music at 2 in the morning at a music festival. They told the dispatcher that they had an early morning yoga session planned and needed their 8 hours of beauty sleep. Calling the cops on partygoers at a festival is like going to a steakhouse and yelling at the chef for cooking meat. Read the room, my friend. 7. Location is everything, right? Well, a major beach festival received a formal grievance from a patron who was furious about the sand. They were not upset about trash in the sand, but the sand itself. They claimed it got in their shoes, their food, and their bag, ruining their experience. They suggested the organizers should have laid down carpets over the entire beach to make it more civilized. Imagine the logistics of carpeting miles of coastline just so one person doesn't have to shake out their sneakers. 8. Concert schedules usually follow a pattern where the openers play first and the headliner closes the show late at night. One confused parent was irate that the main act didn't start until 9 at night. They complained that it was past their bedtime and argued that the biggest band should play first at 4 in the afternoon so everyone could get home early. They genuinely thought the schedule should revolve around their personal sleep cycle rather than building excitement for the finale. Would you actually prefer the main event to be over before sunset? 9. Medical issues are serious, but personal responsibility has to kick in somewhere. A woman with a severe grass allergy attended a festival held in a public park, which is, by definition, covered in grass. She then demanded the organizers pay for her antihistamines and medical bills because she had a reaction. She argued they should have mowed the grass shorter, or, better yet, paved the park for the weekend. It is truly mind-boggling how someone can walk into a field of green and blame the event planner for nature doing its thing. 10. Promoters want a sold-out show, but apparently the attendees do not. One guy left a 1-star review for a massive stadium tour because there were too many people there. He said the sheer number of humans gave him anxiety and ruined the vibe. While anxiety is real, complaining that a popular band attracted a large crowd is a bit redundant. That is like complaining that the ocean is too wet or the sun is too hot. If you want a private show, you better have the bank account to hire them for your living room. 11. Time waits for no man, not even rock stars. But one fan was genuinely heartbroken that their childhood idol had aged. After seeing a classic rock band from the 70s, this person complained that the lead singer had gray hair and wrinkles, which ruined their teenage fantasy. They argued the promoter should have used holograms or old footage instead of letting the actual, living human beings perform on stage. Imagine being offended that a 70-year-old man looks like a 70-year-old man. 12. Outdoor festivals in the desert are famous for two things, which are heat and dust. Yet one attendee sent an invoice to the organizers for their dry cleaning bill. They claimed that nobody warned them their designer outfit would get dusty in the middle of a literal desert. They expected the festival grounds to be vacuumed or covered in plastic so their expensive boots wouldn't get dirty. If you wear couture to a dust bowl, that is entirely on you. 13. The battle between the sitters and the standers is eternal. At a high-energy rock concert, a woman complained to management because the people in front of her were standing up and dancing. She demanded that the band stop the music and tell everyone to sit down so she could watch the show comfortably from her seat without moving a muscle. It is a rock concert, not a dentist appointment. Are you the type to stand up and dance, or do you prefer to sit and judge everyone else? 14. We have all felt invisible at times, but one fan took it personally. They left a negative review stating that despite paying for front row tickets, the lead singer never made direct eye contact with them. Not even once. They felt ignored and claimed the artist was being rude by looking at the rest of the crowd instead of staring deeply into their soul for 2 hours. I think they were looking for a boyfriend, not a concert experience. 15. Pyrotechnics and lasers are a huge part of the spectacle, especially at electronic dance music events. However, one attendee filed a formal grievance claiming the light show was too bright and distracting. They said the flashing lights made it difficult to focus on the DJ just standing there pressing buttons. They suggested the lighting technician should dim the entire rig so it would be more like a relaxing lounge than a massive rave. 16. Outdoor festivals are a gamble with Mother Nature, but one festival goer decided to take their anger out on the staff. After a summer storm turned the field into a mud pit, this person demanded a full refund, claiming the organizers failed to control the weather conditions. They argued that since they paid for a summer festival, they were contractually owed sunshine. I am not sure what kind of weather controlling technology they think event planners are hiding back there, but I am pretty sure if they had it, they would charge extra for it. 17. Live music is supposed to be unique, with solos and improvisations that you can't hear on the album. But one purist was furious that the guitarist played a solo differently than the studio recording from 1985. They called it unprofessional and demanded the band learn to play their own songs correctly. They basically wanted to pay ticket prices to listen to a CD. Do you prefer hearing the song exactly like the record, or do you like it when bands mix it up live? 18. Security checkpoints are annoying but necessary, yet one man was outraged when they confiscated his glass bottle of wine. He argued that it was his emotional support vintage, and he couldn't enjoy the jazz festival without a specific Cabernet. When security offered to pour it into a plastic cup, he refused, claiming the plastic would taint the flavor profile. Sir, you are standing in a porta-potty line. I don't think the flavor profile is your biggest problem. 19. Festivals often advertise free water stations to keep people hydrated, which is a great safety feature. One lady, however, was disgusted that the free water was tap water and not premium imported spring water. She wrote a scathing email saying she does not drink peasant water and expected chilled bottles of brand-name hydration to be handed to her personally. Entitlement really does taste different when you are thirsty. 20. The acoustic sweet spot is a real thing, but this complaint defies physics. A man standing at the very back of a massive stadium complained that the sound had a slight delay compared to the video screens. He didn't seem to understand that light travels faster than sound and demanded the engineers sync up reality so his experience would be seamless from the nosebleed section. He was essentially asking the sound crew to break the laws of physics just for him. 21. You go to a concert to hear the artist sing, but usually the crowd joins in because that is how communal joy works. However, one concert goer demanded a full refund because the people around them were singing along too loudly. They argued that they paid to hear the professional vocalist, not the tone-deaf teenager standing next to them. They actually suggested that security should walk around and silence anyone caught humming along to the chorus. Is it really a concert if you aren't screaming the lyrics at the top of your lungs? Or is that just annoying? 22. Touring is exhausting, and sometimes rock stars genuinely forget where they are on the map. But the reaction to a simple mistake can be wild. One fan in Detroit was so deeply offended when the lead singer yelled, "Hello, Cleveland," that they demanded an official public apology from the band's management. They claimed the geographic mix-up caused them severe emotional distress and made them feel like the band didn't care about their specific location. It was an honest slip of the tongue by a tired traveler, but this fan acted like the singer had personally insulted their grandmother in front of thousands of people. 23. Comfort is important, but there are limits to what you can bring into a standing room-only mosh pit. Security at a rock festival had to stop a woman who was trying to drag a full-sized inflatable sofa through the gates. When they confiscated her furniture, she filed a complaint stating that the festival was discriminating against people who enjoy lumbar support. She genuinely expected to set up a living room right in the middle of a crowd of 10,000 jumping people. 24. Singers are human beings who need hydration, especially under hot stage lights. Yet, one scathing review criticized a pop star for taking too many water breaks during her set. The reviewer called it unprofessional and lazy, calculating that the singer spent a total of 4 minutes drinking water over a 2-hour show. They argued that for the ticket price, the artist should be able to sing non-stop without needing basic biological sustenance. 25. If you attend a festival held in a dense forest during the middle of July, you are going to encounter some wildlife. One attendee was absolutely shocked by the presence of mosquitoes and demanded the organizers reimburse them for bug spray. They claimed the festival website did not explicitly warn them that insects live outside. They essentially wanted the promoters to exterminate every flying bug within a 5-mile radius before the gates opened. 26. Merchandise lines are the bane of every concert-goer's existence. One fan made the poor choice to wait in line for a t-shirt during the headliner set and missed the first 5 songs. Instead of blaming their own time management, they blamed the band. They wrote a complaint saying the band should have paused the concert until the merch line went down so nobody would miss anything. Imagine an entire stadium waiting in silence just so you can buy a hoodie. 27. Large festivals often span massive grounds, requiring a lot of walking between stages. One patron was not having it and complained that the stages were too far apart. They demanded that the organizers provide personal golf cart transportation for every single ticket holder to eliminate the burden of walking. Considering there were 50,000 people there, the traffic jam of golf carts would have been a bigger disaster than the walk itself. 28. The term VIP usually gets you a shorter line for the bar and a slightly cleaner toilet. But one attendee who bought a VIP package was furious that they didn't get to hang out with the band backstage. They assumed "very important person" meant they were now part of the band's inner circle and were insulted when security wouldn't let them into the dressing room to drink the rider. Do you think VIP tickets are a scam? Or are they worth it for the private bathrooms alone? 29. Bass frequencies are meant to be felt in your chest. That is the whole point of a powerful sound system. However, a local resident living near a festival site called the police to report an invisible assault. He claimed the bass vibrations were physically pushing him around his living room and demanded the police arrest the sound engineer for battery. While loud bass is annoying for neighbors, calling it a physical assault is a masterpiece of exaggeration. 30. Lasers and confetti usually signal the climax of a great show, but for one person, it was a hygiene crisis. They complained that a piece of paper confetti landed in their overpriced beer, rendering it undrinkable. They demanded a refund for the drink and an apology for the debris falling from the ceiling. It takes a special kind of misery to be at the peak of a concert with confetti raining down and only worry about a soggy piece of paper in your cup. 31. Surprise sets are designed to be spontaneous rewards for fans who are paying attention, but one attendee filed a furious complaint because the festival did not publish the exact time and location of the secret set in the printed program. They argued that keeping it a secret was unfair to people who like to plan their day in rigid 15-minute intervals. They actually claimed it was unprofessional to not announce the surprise a week in advance so they could schedule it into their Google Calendar. Do you love the thrill of a surprise guest? Or does the fear of missing out completely ruin your day? 32. Basic music history is apparently not a requirement for buying a ticket. A fan at a Rolling Stones concert actually demanded a refund because the band refused to play Hey Jude. When the staff patiently explained that Hey Jude is a Beatles song, the fan doubled down and said that for the price of the ticket, the band should know every famous rock song ever written. That is the equivalent of walking into a Burger King and screaming at the cashier because they refuse to make you a Big Mac. 33. We can control the sound, the lights, and the stage design, but we cannot control the rotation of the Earth. An attendee at an open-air amphitheater complained that the sun was shining directly into their eyes during the sunset slot. They suggested the organizers should have rotated the entire concrete stage 45 degrees or installed a giant set of blinds to block the star at the center of our solar system. I wonder if they also go to the beach and yell at the tide for coming in too close to their towel. 34. Fashion is a massive part of festival culture, but nature really does not care about your expensive white linen pants. A woman sent a serious invoice to the festival organizers for a new pair of designer trousers because she sat on the grass and got green stains on them. She claimed the grass should have been dry cleaned or treated with a chemical sealant to prevent color transfer to her clothing. Who goes to a public park, sits directly on the ground, and is genuinely shocked that nature leaves a mark? 35. We live in a hyper-connected digital age, but this complaint is just sad. A teenager left a scathing one-star review for a remote wilderness festival because the cellular reception was too weak to live stream the headliner on social media. They claimed the lack of fast internet violated their basic human rights and prevented them from showing off to their friends who weren't there. Would you rather watch the concert with your own eyes or watch it through your phone screen while panicking about your Wi-Fi signal? 36. Those fabric wristbands are the badge of honor for any festival goer, even if they get a little gross after 3 days of sweating. However, one fashion-conscious attendee complained that the neon yellow wristband clashed with their carefully curated earth tone outfit. They demanded a neutral beige option or a removable clasp so they could take it off for their Instagram photos. Imagine being at a music festival surrounded by art and sound, and your biggest problem is that your wristband doesn't match your belt. 37. Most venues have a strict no re-entry policy to keep things secure and controlled. One guy, who clearly didn't read the giant signs at the gate, went out to his car to grab a sandwich and was barred from coming back in. He filed a police report claiming the venue had stolen his ticket money and that he was being held hostage on the outside. He genuinely thought the security guards were part of a grand conspiracy to keep him from seeing the second half of the concert. 38. Concerts get hot, sweaty, and gross. It is just part of the biology of crowding thousands of people together. A patron wrote a disgusted letter to management because the stranger next to them was sweating profusely and accidentally brushed against their arm. They demanded a sweat-free zone or mandatory antiperspirant checks at the door before entry. If you are afraid of a little bodily fluid, maybe a crowded mosh pit is not your natural habitat, and you should stick to classical opera. 39. Bands often perform a stripped-back acoustic set to show off their raw talent and give the audience a break from the noise. One fan was having none of it and complained that the band was being lazy by not using electricity. They argued that they paid for electric guitars and amplifiers, and playing acoustic was a cheap cost-cutting measure by the band to save money on the venue's electricity bill. I am pretty sure the band isn't worried about the power meter spinning too fast, buddy. 40. Crowd surfing is a rite of passage for punk rockers, but it is technically a safety hazard. A guy who was dropped by the crowd filed a complaint not against the people who dropped him, but against the lead singer. He claimed the singer should have telepathically commanded the audience to have better upper body strength before encouraging him to jump. He essentially wanted the band to be liable for gravity. Have you ever been dropped while crowd surfing, or are you the one doing the heavy lifting? 41. Encores are a time-honored tradition where the band pretends to leave and the crowd cheers them back on stage. One man, however, took the band's "good night" literally and stormed out of the venue. When he found out, the band came back and played 3 more songs. He filed a complaint for false advertising. He claimed the band lied to him by saying the show was over when it wasn't, and he felt emotionally manipulated by the theatrical exit. I bet this guy is really fun at surprise parties. 42. Censorship is for the radio, not for live rock and roll shows, but some parents just don't seem to get the concept. A mother brought her 10-year-old child to a hardcore rap concert and then filed a formal complaint about the excessive use of profanity by the artist. She argued that the rapper should have censored themselves or provided a special, clean version of the live show specifically for the children in the audience. Lady, you bought tickets to see a guy whose albums have giant parental advisory stickers on the cover. What exactly did you expect was going to happen? 43. Context clues are important when buying tickets, but this attendee clearly missed the memo entirely. A disgruntled fan at a massive electronic dance music festival left a furious review, complaining that there were too many computers and not enough real instruments. They were genuinely upset that they didn't see any electric guitars or drum kits at a festival dedicated entirely to synthesized house music. That is the equivalent of walking into a sushi restaurant and screaming at the chef because everything is raw and there are no cheeseburgers on the menu. 44. Nature is rarely perfectly flat, especially when the venue is literally a farm field in the middle of nowhere. One festival goer, who decided to wear 6-inch stiletto heels to a rural venue, lodged a complaint that the ground was too uneven for her shoes. She twisted her ankle and blamed the organizers for not paving the cow pasture before the event. She actually suggested they should have poured concrete over the entire 100-acre field just to make it walkable for her specific choice of impractical high-fashion footwear. 45. Parasocial relationships can get very weird, very fast. A fan tried to throw a heavy, homemade scrapbook onto the stage, but security intercepted it before it hit the singer. The fan then filed a complaint accusing the security team of theft and preventing the artist from seeing their true love. They were convinced that if the singer just saw the scrapbook, they would stop the show and propose marriage immediately. Instead, the book went into the trash, and the fan went into a rage over their ruined fantasy. 46. Atmospheric effects set the mood, but they can be a nuisance for the incredibly picky. One person complained that the fog machine was too effective and the smoke was too thick. They claimed the artificial smoke obscured their view of the drummer's face for approximately 30 seconds, ruining their connection with the rhythm section. They demanded that the band stop using fog, dry ice, or any atmospheric effects that might slightly reduce visibility for even a brief moment. 47. The end of the night is always a gridlock nightmare, but this complaint defies all logic in civil engineering. A man was absolutely furious that it took him 2 hours to exit the dirt parking lot after a festival with 80,000 people. He wrote a serious letter stating the organizers should have built a private, paved highway ramp exclusively for festival traffic to speed things up. He refused to understand that putting that many cars on a 2-lane country road is a mathematical bottleneck that no amount of complaining can magically solve. 48. Brand loyalty is normal, but this is bordering on a medical intervention. When a festival ran out of a specific brand of cheap light beer on the final day, one attendee completely lost their mind. They claimed they were medically allergic to all other brands of beer, which is scientifically fascinating, and demanded the organizers fly in a helicopter restock immediately. When the bartender suggested they drink water instead, the patron threatened to sue the entire venue for subjecting him to forced sobriety. 49. The magic behind the scenes is usually best left unseen. A fan who arrived right when the gates opened complained that hearing the sound check spoiled the set list for them. They argued that hearing the band practice a few songs before the show ruined the surprise of the actual performance later that night. They genuinely wanted the band to perform a silent sound check, which is physically impossible unless they are miming. Do you like hearing the warm-up, or does it actually ruin the magic for you? 50. Misery loves company, even among the minimum wage staff. A hardcore goth music fan attended a dark wave festival and filed a formal complaint that the security guards were smiling too much. They argued that the happy, friendly demeanor of the staff completely ruined the gloomy, depressing aesthetic of the event. They actually wanted the staff to be instructed to look miserable, act rude, and frown at everyone just to match the sad vibe of the music playing on stage. 51. Encores are usually the cherry on top of a great night, but one punctual patron saw them as a breach of contract. They complained that the band played for an extra 30 minutes, causing them to miss their scheduled train home. They argued the concert should have ended precisely at 10 o'clock, regardless of how much fun the rest of the audience was having. They essentially wanted the rock star to punch a time clock like a factory worker, so their personal commute wouldn't be disrupted. 52. Bands evolve, they release new albums, and they want to play their fresh material. However, one disgruntled fan wrote a scathing review because their favorite legacy band played 3 new songs in a 2-hour set. They called it a betrayal of the fan base and demanded the band only play tracks recorded before the year 1990. It is fascinating how some people view a live concert as a personal jukebox service rather than an artistic performance. If you only want to hear the greatest hits, just stay home and listen to the radio. 53. We all have that friend who thinks they could be on stage, but this guy took it to corporate. He sent a recording of the concert to the record label, pointing out 3 specific mistakes the drummer made during the set. He demanded a partial refund because the performance was imperfect, and offered his own drumming services as a replacement for the next tour. The sheer level of confidence required to try and steal a job from a rock star via a customer service email is honestly impressive. 54. The Wall of Death is a legendary heavy metal concert ritual, but one attendee apparently thought it was just a poetic name. After voluntarily running into the colliding sides of the mosh pit, he filed a medical claim for his bruises, stating that nobody explicitly warned him that slamming his body into other people would hurt. He genuinely thought it was some kind of interpretive dance circle rather than a chaotic collision of adrenaline-fueled metal fans. 55. Birthdays are special to you, but the world does not stop spinning just because you turn 21. A girl held up a neon sign saying, "It's my birthday," for 2 hours, and was absolutely devastated when the lead singer didn't stop the show to sing to her personally. She wrote a review calling the singer a dream crusher and demanded a personalized video apology. Imagine thinking a stadium tour with 50,000 people is actually just your private birthday party. And that wraps up 55 of the most insane reasons people have demanded to speak to the manager at a music festival. It just goes to show that you can give people art, music, and a good time, and they will still find a way to make it about themselves. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the absolute worst behavior you have ever witnessed at a live concert? Was it a drunk person, a fight, or someone blocking your view? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this madness, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about humanity's finest complainers.